All right. Well, so I finished on yesterday. I finished on saying or talking about Roman coins, and the Roman coin that is on my top list of metal detecting finds, and that I recently found out that Roman coins, contrary to my previous belief, can be found across the whole country. Because previously I thought that Roman coins could only be found in the region of the south of the country, which is called Moravia, because that's where during the, and I hope I'm saying the term right, Marcomann Wars, where the Roman legions were on a sort of a war campaign against the Germanic tribes, they set up a camp and they crossed the borders of our country and crossed and made a camp and sort of a temporary settlement in the region of South Moravia. And that's what I thought, okay, that's the place where you can find Roman coins. And there are lots of finds when you see people finding Roman coins. It's usually South Moravian region. And I thought, okay, that's like it's an exclusive thing to the South Moravian region, but apparently not, because there are finds of Roman coins outside of that region. In the central part of the region, in north, country, in the north, in the west, and people are finding amazing things. I've seen this one video of someone local, I mean not local like from this region, but like a Czech metal detectorist, and they found a coin from Alexander the Great. Like, how freaking cool is that? It's like you're detecting in Czech Republic and you find the coin of Alexander the Great. I mean, that is a find of a lifetime, really. Or there was this other person who found a Roman coin of Julius Caesar. Amazing. And as far as I recall, those were finds made not in South Moravia, but in the central part of the country, meaning essentially the region where I live. So yeah, it's pretty cool. And the reason for that, I was gonna talk about that. So we're gonna have a little history corner today. The reason for that is I've listened to a podcast about that with a couple of metal detectorists and an archaeologist, and they were talking about Roman minting coins and how did it get to our country and all that. And the reason for that apparently is that the Germanic tribes used to like how it started is there were a lot of wars and unrest and a lot of battles that were happening between the Roman Empire and the Germanic tribes. And it was quite taxing for the whole empire, and it was like they were good warriors, and it was just a whole lot of nuisance for the empire, and it was straining everything, and they had some political turmoils and all that. So what happened eventually is that they sorry, I just stepped on something and it's a branch. Drake says over there. Well, I guess I'm gonna leave him be for now. So what happened is that eventually they came upon a realization that they could fight the Germanic tribes and waste more resources and sort of waste more manpower and just strain the empire even more, lose a lot of people, lose a lot of men. Or they could just bribe the Germanic tribes and sort of buy the peace with them, you know, sort of, because they were pretty wealthy. Well, pretty, I mean, they were the most powerful empire on the face of the earth probably at the time. So they had a lot of they had a lot of resources, they had a lot of money, and Roman coin and financial system, you know, Roman financial system was incredibly intricate and incredibly large and large scaled, you know. So they had a lot of money, and they had a lot of physical money, you know. They were minting millions and millions of coins because they had to pay. Like, can you believe that dog? I'm not gonna start the rant today. I'm not. No, I'm not talking about it today. We're talking about Roman coins. So they were minting millions and millions of coins because they had to pay, especially the army. They had a huge army, right, of like legions of men who were essentially paid, right? Like every legionnaire had a salary essentially, and they were paid. And I'm not sure if they were paid on a monthly basis or yearly basis, but I recall they were saying they were paid 1,000 denarius. And I'm not sure, you know, if it was monthly or if it was yearly, but they were paid 1,000 denarius, and that's 1,000 coins for each man, you know. And now imagine how many legions and how many men were there. It's crazy. It's like a huge system. They had to keep up afloat, and they had to pay, and they have to give wage to all those people, and so it was a large system, and tons and tons of coins were minted during that time. And so what they decided upon after years and years and years and years of wars, that they're just gonna buy the Germanic tribes, and they're gonna bribe them, because the Germanic tribes were far from the advancement of the Roman Empire. They, I mean, they're you know, their sort of society and their sort of craftsmanship was completely elsewhere than the Roman Empire's craftsmanship and everything else was, you know. So they didn't have such an amazing, you know, ceramics, and they didn't mint their own coins. And that's the main point, actually. They did not mint their own coins. They didn't have, as far as I recall from that podcast, they didn't have their financial system, because they didn't really care about money, apparently, like physical money. You know, I guess they were trading mostly, and they just didn't have their own monetary system. So I think the Romans like exploited that, and they kind of bought them, and they gave them a lot of money, a lot of those coins, and they gave them, apart from that, they also gave them a lot of other stuff like ceramics and, you know, simply items that they were items that were exotic for them, items that were rare in their sort of culture, because they were not really making them. They didn't have the means to make them, because I mean, you had the whole manufacturers in the Roman Empire. You had whole manufacturers, like modern day factories actually, where hundreds and thousands of people were employed, and they were making stuff. You know, it's incredible how modern that ancient empire actually was. So you know, it's like, I don't know what to compare it with, but if you imagine the Germanic tribes coming in contact with the Roman Empire, it must have been like cavemen fighting. You know, it's like, it must have been like very, very jarring sort of, I mean, I don't want to compare the Germanic tribes to cavemen, but like in comparison to the technology that they had and the sort of advancement of the whole sort of even bureaucracy and probably, I guess, philosophy and politics and monetary system and all that, it's almost as if like you would have a really like, I mean, yeah, like the sort of the differences between them were must have been jarring, you know, like really incredibly vastly different. And the Romans obviously were vastly more advanced, but they were getting their ass kicked either way, which is funny, you know, because they had everything. They had the, you know, education, they had the means, like they had the craftsmanship, they must have had amazing armor and swords and shields and you know, they were all paid, and you know, like there was like a whole freaking system behind everything, and they were so super advanced, and yet they were having their ass kicked. So it's just funny. So although I imagine they were great warriors too, you know, and they held all sorts of like different strategies, and they were making these, you know, like I'm sure you know from the films, they were making these formations, the shield formations, you know, where they were making these like sort of like a turtle sort of thing, and so they must have been great warriors too. But I guess Germanic tribes and the Germanic warriors were really fearsome and resilient and incredibly strong, and I guess they just like, you know, sort of made up what they lacked in the sort of like sophisticated nuances that the Roman Empire had. They kind of made up to that with brute force and sort of like resilience and sort of like, I guess, like I would call it like tribesmanship. I don't know how to call it, but like they were not, they might not have been paid, but they were a close-knit pack of wolves, you know. Imagine them like that. They were like brothers, sort of, you know. I'm not saying the legions and the Romans were not, but I think that's what really, you know, sort of propelled them forward, is that they were like really like close-knit tribe, and they had, I imagine, some sort of a strong sense of honor, like Romans also had for sure, but it was different with the Germanic tribes. I think it was like just a completely different culture, and I think that's what made them such a great and such fearsome warriors. Anyway, I got too much into it, and I'm not an expert, by the way. I'm like, if you're an archaeologist, if you're a historian, and I'm saying something that doesn't, you know, correspond with the reality and doesn't really is not in line with something, then hey, call me out, write in the comments or whatever. I'm just talking out of the back of my memory and from what I remember and learned. But yeah, that's how it was, and that's how I remember that, you know, I read and heard about it and learned about it. And so what they did eventually is that they were bribing them, sort of, they were buying peace essentially with the Germanic tribes. And what also Romans did, that they were actually sort of fostering a relationship with the Germanic tribe kings. Hold on, I'm gonna go through here. The Germanic tribe kings, you know, the one that were, you know, like newly elected, sort of, they were they were fostering a great relationship with them, because they wanted to have someone in powerful places in the Germanic sort of empire. Oh, there's a harvester over there. Didn't notice it. Okay, that's probably not good news. Oh, they're gonna get to that part where all the fallen trees are. Okay, right. Well, yeah, okay, or maybe this part here. They'll probably do this part. Yeah, could be. Well, they wanted to have a good relationship with the newly elected sort of kings and people that were in power in the Germanic sort of kingdom, and they were, you know, sort of nurturing good relationships with them. So they choose that kind of path of diplomacy, of bribing, and it was working, I guess, you know, because I guess it was a good strategy, you know, since they were really quite wealthy, so they could afford it. Well, and that we're getting finally to the point where it's kind of obvious how the coins got to our country, and how did they got to our country is that they were given to the Germanic tribes. Sometimes they were stolen, obviously, of course. I mean, throughout the wars where they, I don't know, defeated a legion or something, they stole the money and they just like sort of, or like, I mean, it was like a sort of a, how do you call it, like a battle prize, I guess. Like you looted the bodies and you had the money and you just took the reward, sort of. So the money eventually got into the Germanic sort of society, and they started using them as a means of trade, as a money. It started to go into circulation. It was then used as gifts, so it like sort of traveled across the country into various different places. They were exchanged, and they were also used apparently as a means of sort of a storage of material, because those coins were made of bronze, they were made of silver, some of them were made of gold, and they were using those coins. Sometimes they melted them down and used them for various different things, which they, like, for whatever they needed it. And the coins were sort of therefore a sort of a storage of raw material, or actually pure material already. They didn't have to really do much. They just have to melt it and sort of, you know, sort of pour it into some sort of a mold, and ta-da, you know, you get a bronze, I don't know, of jewelry, or bronze, what do you call it, arrow tips, or, you know, whatever, you know, you call it. So they were using it as that too. And sometimes as well, because there are Roman coins being found with a hole drilled in them, and that is because some of the Roman coins were also used as a jewelry and as sort of a decorative element of people's the Germanic people's attires, you know. So it was used as I don't know, earrings. It was used as an amulet, as I don't know, part of the clothing, you know. It was maybe used in their belts, you know, and all that. So sometimes you find those holes, and that means, okay, that was used as a jewelry. And that is essentially how coins, Roman coins, got into across the country. Even though the Romans were only present in South Moravia, their coins spread out into the whole country through these means, which I find fascinating. So eventually that Alexander the Great coin probably was a prize, was a reward, was it given to someone, and it eventually made its way to somewhere here, you know, central Bohemia, central Czech Republic, and it was discovered 1,000 years later. That's amazing. Like, I love these stories, you know, and if I could have a superpower, I would have something that would tell me like the whole story of a certain thing. That would be just amazing, you know, to see the whole the story of the thing as a sort of a movie. Like, you would see where, like, which hand it exchanged, what it was a witness to, and wow, that would be pretty crazy. Anyways, that was today's history window, and it was pretty, like, sort of coherent and uninterrupted by 1,000 different things, which is great because that's usually the case. So we don't do history corners that much, so this was one of the rare ones. And hell, maybe I'll figure out what to talk about next time again. But yeah, those were Roman coins, and if I'll ever find one, I'll let you know, because that's gonna be yeah, pretty amazing. And that's one of my metal detecting my dream find with a metal detector for sure. I would love to find a Roman coin, and they're beautiful too. I mean, if you see the craftsmanship of the Roman coins, and even ancient Greek coins, it's absolutely mind-boggling how incredibly well detailed the coins are. It's just, the craftsmanship is just out of this world. And if you compare it with like early medieval European coins from I don't know, 10th, 11th century, and compare it with like ancient Greek coins with like, I don't know, 2nd, 3rd century before before Christ, then it's like, man, it's like incredible how different it is. It's like 1,000 years after that, and our early medieval coins are like a child's scribble compared to how incredibly advanced the technology was in the ancient Greek coin minting, you know, like, because the details are just, it just looks perfect, you know. And given the fact that it's a coin that is like more than 2,000 years old, it's just like absolutely mind-blowing to me, you know, like seriously. Just check it out. Check out, like, put in Google like ancient Greek coins and just see the amazing motifs and details that it has. It's just absolutely beautiful, absolutely beautiful. So yeah, that's definitely one of my dreams, to find either ancient Greek coin or Roman coin, or both. Hey, let's not be let's not have a low let's not have a let's aim high. That's what I want to say. Let's aim high. Yeah, definitely. I want to find Roman coin. I want to find ancient Greek coin, and I would love to find a Celtic coin. Absolutely, like the gold one. Oh my God, that's the dream. And those are absolutely beautiful too. You know, like if you want to check it out sometime, put Celtic gold coin into Google, and it's absolutely fascinating and beautiful. Anyways, I'm by the side of the road, so I'm gonna sign off now.